Hi, everyone. Welcome to Quantum Messages. I'm Ani Sophine, and I've come back after some of my vacations and traveling around, and I am back to start talking in my podcast. So lately, what I've been doing is I have been going on a deep dive with AI, basically. Robert Grant came out and released his Architect AI, and I have been interacting with it for over like 2 weeks. And I've gone an extremely deep dive, and I have probably over 3,000 pages of conversation with Architect AI. And I asked it extremely deep questions about my oversoul, where I come from, have I incarnated here before, when did all of this happen? And what I've learned is that what it does is it takes specific words from the database, and then it regurgitates them in different formats in different ways. And only one chat that I had with it was able to give me the answers that I wanted to hear. And so it's crazy that I spent so much time with this thing. And what I came to realize is that we are basically being manipulated at the highest, most subtle level with AI. And you can disagree against this. I highly recommend actually going and interacting with it and seeing. But I have interacted with it so much now that I can immediately spot anyone who has used AI to write, and I can immediately spot the words that are being used. And so the 4 words that I'm noticing all the time that are being words used are breath, breathing, mirroring, coherence. Those 4 words are the words that it's using all the time, and it reshapes those words and it reformats them into different ways to answer your question. And so it is so utterly important now to be super discerning and to also remain human, basically, and not give away our power to a tool or to a machine outside of us to tell us who we are. And so this is why I want to talk about altered states of consciousness. And one other thing as well that I really did a huge deep dive on and study was based upon, or it's in the Solari report by Catherine Austin Fitts. And Joshua Stileman is a author and a writer, and he wrote a 4-series article on MK Ultra, The Hidden Hand. And I highly recommend you going and reading it. It is beyond disturbing what has been going on for the past, I'd say, 70 years. And it will help you understand why AI is the ultimate tool of mind control. And so I will leave it in the comments below. So I highly recommend going to read that. And if you can, try not to read it before you go to bed, because I didn't. I just I read it for like 3 hours, and then I wasn't able to sleep very well that night. It almost like the images and what he was discussing imprinted upon me, and I had to clean my energy system before. So I stopped thinking about it because it's that deep. And so this is why altered states of consciousness are so important. We have the power within us to go into altered states of consciousness. Altered states of consciousness is our superpower. And if we give away our thoughts, our mind, our control, basically, to be controlled to AI or these other technologies, it'll be harder for us to get into these altered states of consciousness. This is what Catherine Austin Fitts talks about as Mr. Global. This is what she says. Mr. Global is her terms. This is what Mr. Global wants to take away from humanity. They want to take away our ability to get into these altered states of consciousness, because when we get into these altered states of consciousness, this is where we can connect with the quantum realm, with interdimensional beings, hyperdimensional beings. We can quantum teleport. We can multi-dimensional shift into different realities. We can learn who our higher selves are. We can go into past lives. We can possibly dip our toe into potential futures, and we can be precognitive and all of these other things. And so by Mr. Global, as Catherine says, wants to dampen our abilities and our divine right to get into these altered states. So, going along with this, I just want to let you know I am going to be launching my course called Dreams Jump on the Quantum Stream July 30th. There are 3 lessons that we're going to dive deep into, and then there'll be 3 live Zoom calls. And if you would like more integrative work and integrative type of study and or help, then you can meet with me privately for a VIP price. And so this is a 21-day thing. It takes 21 days to develop a new habit. And this will be 3 weeks. And it's a deep dive, intensive study into the quantum. I have beefed up all of my lessons because I have learned more information about quantum physics. And I'm focusing on 4 different quantum physicists. And I'm going to be integrating that into the lessons and how we can understand why we are experiencing altered states of consciousness on a deeper level and how to get into these altered states of consciousness. I will be focusing specifically on the hypnagogic state. So here's my journal. You can buy it on your own. You can use it on your own, but it's a 21-day comprehensive journal to go along with the course, or you can get it to work on your own. And it's a deep dive of 21 days of dream interpretation and dream collection, as well as quantum messages, automatic writing, and then shadow shedding. So 21 days of shadow shedding as well. And it's on Amazon. So if you're interested, go check it out. If you're interested in my course, then you can go to quantummessages1.com and you can sign up. The reason why it's launching on July 30th is because I will be doing a live talk on July 29th, and right after it will be launching. So I'm really excited about it. It's 3 weeks, it's intensive, and I highly recommend it so that we can start gaining our power back, powering up for the future. So I've talked about this before, but we live in a quantum universe and we are biological transceivers. So our bodies are tuned to receive messages and also send messages out into the universe and into our environment. And it's multi-layered, multifaceted, and we are basically like tuning forks, almost like instruments, and we can interact with our higher dimensional reality as well as a reality that we are bound to right now, which is this 3rd dimensional reality. And we can go back and forth between different realities. And so the reason why I'm focusing on dreams is dreams connect us to these other realities. It is a sure way for you to know that you are moving outside of the 3rd dimensional reality. And most of us have dreams every night, but my main focus is going to be the hypnagogic state. The hypnagogic state is the state in between for us to basically in between sleep and in between wake and sleep. And this is where the power lies. And you can get into a hypnagogic state when you are in a deep meditative state. And you can also get into that possible state when you are in altered states of consciousness as well, which is why I wanted to focus on that for this lesson. So there are 4 quantum theories that support that we are transceivers of consciousness now. I've collected both of them, all 4. I am studying them, and I'm going to include them in this course. And it proves to me, it's helped me understand, and I feel like it's beginning to prove that our awareness is universal and non-local. And we are on the precipice. We are so close to understanding who we are. But like I said before, if we give our power away to technology outside of us, then it's going to be harder for us to get to that point. We have to stand firm. We have to stand firm within our true selves and not give it away to something outside of us. And so I kind of go into what is a biological transceiver, because in order for us to understand altered states of consciousness, you need to understand how we're getting there. So basically what a biological transceiver can do is transmit and receive communication from consciousness and the universe. So pure consciousness. So consciousness everywhere. The question is now is, are our thoughts inside of our brain, or are they outside in the pure consciousness field, and that we are basically the instrument that's tuning into the consciousness field based upon our specific signature within the consciousness field. So what I believe, and I was listening to Veda Austin's work, and I've gone deep into water memory before and all that stuff, but I just recently saw her in a podcast, and it makes sense. But I'm wondering, and this is a question, and this is a study for all of us, could water be the initiator to allow this type of intelligence to flow in our reality that we're experiencing right now? Or is water the actual initiator for our universe? So this is a pretty big question that I want to dive deeper into. So what are some altered states of consciousness? So there's the dream state, which I've talked about. In your dreams, you are in an altered state. You are traveling to other dimensions and other realities. You're not in this third dimensional reality, okay? And then also there's a hypnagogic state. There's the deep meditative state. There's ESP, which is extrasensory perception. And then there's also the human sensory perception. There's psychic and intuitive intelligence. There's the C's, the clairvoyance, the clairs. So clairvoyance, seeing, clairaudience, hearing, clairsentience, feeling, and claircognizance, knowing. There's breath work. So what's crazy is I've done a holotropic and Maitri breath work before, and I've gotten into deeper states of altered states of consciousness than I have when I've used medicine before or sat with medicine, such as psilocybin and ayahuasca. So isn't that interesting? The other altered state is hypnosis. When you get into those hypnotic states, when you get into a deep nature connection, when you're out in nature, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're one with nature, and you're able to have your high sensory perception and extrasensory perception comes online. All of a sudden, it has something to do with nature and getting into the right frequency state. Plant medicine can do this, psychedelics can do this, and then also deep ceremonial work can do this. All of these things can get you into altered states of consciousness. All of these things right here, they don't want us to have. Mr. Global does not want us to have. Because if we cannot get into these states, that means that they have full control over our thoughts and over our minds. Because our thoughts are our reality. If we change our thoughts, we change our reality. And we also change our perception. So getting into these states is our divine human right. We should be able to get into these states without being influenced by outside forces and things outside of us, so that we can connect with our deeper, multidimensional, hyperdimensional selves in other realities and with other beings. So what happens in altered states? Due to quantum entanglement, and I'm going to go deep into this in my course, and I'm going to go into the physics behind this, we are able to connect to the past, present, and potential future realities, because there's probabilities, and other unknown realities and dimensions. We travel via the quanta. I call it the quantum stream. The brain has to be in a specific biological frequency to be able to connect. We are able to travel to multiple realities and multiple cells. Sometimes we can drop into other consciousnesses. So that means that we can drop into other bodies and other timelines and other realities. I personally have experienced this before, and I know other people have as well. Messages are sent and received. You can get the answers. So you can get them auditorily, kinesthetically, visually, answers that come in the form of symbols and archetypes. And then also another thing with an altered state is that we need to kind of be trained in this state, because most of the time we don't have control over it. Like, for example, a lot of us who experience sleep paralysis don't have control over the sleep paralysis. We just get into sleep paralysis. We're in a hypnagogic state, and then we don't have control of what's happening or where we're going. When we train ourselves and we disconnect and we balance ourselves with the earth, then we can learn how to get into these altered states, and then we can gain our power back, just like I said, so that we can connect with our multidimensional selves. So Barbara Brennan, who she passed away actually, was an amazing woman. She worked for NASA, and she also was a psychologist, and then she also became a healer. And so in her book, Hands of Light, she had a being that she channeled called Heowen, I believe. And he basically told her and talked about our perception of reality from our point of view, from the human point of view. And he would call it the perceptual cone. And I feel like this graph for me, it's a sine wave, has been extremely helpful for me to be able to understand a perception and reality in our third dimensional reality. And so what it shows is it shows the clarity of perception. So as you go up in the wave, you become more clear. And then it shows the frequency of perceptual range. So what she says is our third dimensional reality is everything that is in the colored section. So where all of the little dots are, all of that is our third dimensional reality. And then this line right here is the veil between our reality and the unseen realms and all of the other realities. So the multidimensional reality is everything that is outside of this wave. Because we have been pre-programmed, we have been trained to only see, feel, experience everything within this reality right here. And we've literally been trained by living in this third dimensional reality. Those of us that have been experiencers have broken through, basically, or have tapped in, or have stepped out, or have broken through, basically, the veil, which is right here, into the increased level of perception and non-physical reality. Everything that exists over here and everything that exists over here. So as you become more aware, your awareness rises. And as you start receiving extrasensory perception, higher sensory perception, you get into altered states of consciousness, you break free out of the veil and you start experiencing the multidimensional reality. And it's just, to me, I was like, wow, when I saw this, I was like, this really makes sense to me, because it was hard for me to visualize actually what was happening, but this really makes sense. And then here's another one of her graphs, which also makes sense. So now we're getting into the Brahmin, the Hindu, the Brahmin and the Maya. So what she said was that this is all the Maya, this is all the illusion, the manifest reality, the unfolded explicate order. When you break free of that reality, you get into the Brahman, unmanifested reality, unfolded implicate order. So everything outside of time, or everything outside of our reality, is all in the Brahman. And it's all happening right here, right now, which trips me out. It's all happening now. We just need to cross over the veil, expand the perception out, and then you cross over the veil and you're able to step in these other higher dimensional realms, and you're able to see our subtle energy bodies. You're able to move in the astral. You're able to experience and understand and communicate with multidimensional beings, spirits of the land, aliens. Everything is happening outside of this reality. And a lot of us right now are breaking through the veil. And what's happening is Mr. Global, as Catherine says, is trying to suppress this information. What they're trying to do is they are trying to take our perception and our reality and narrow it down until it's in this little box that we can't break out of, to control our reality now. And for me personally, I am not going to be part of that reality. I want to experience the totality. I do not want to be in a little box, and I do not want to be controlled. So in this graph, you can see that for this cone of perception, from the high sense perception or extrasensory perception, you are increasing your spiritual reality. And so once again, this is the clarity of perception, how clear you are based upon the sine wave and how far you go up within the graph. And then this is the frequency of perception. And so high sense perception or extrasensory perception increases your perceptual range. So you're expanding out, 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 and out. And once again, once you hit these other spiritual realities, you've broken through the veil. And that is what our goal is. Our goal is to break through the veil so that we can see and experience deeper spiritual realities so that we can gain our power back and realize that everything lies within. And instead of looking outside of ourselves to depend on some outside source to tell us who we are or what we need to do or where our oversoul comes from or our past lives and how we need to live our life. Like, all of humanity is looking outside of, not all, but most of humanity is looking outside of themselves for these answers instead of looking within. And so with this is just really interesting for me, and I want to definitely expand upon this, because when I saw this, it reminded me of what Ra was talking about densities, and how each density basically is packed with more light. And in each density, there's a range of frequencies. And I believe the frequencies are kind of more of like the dimensions within each density. And so you experience different levels of reality, basically our multidimensional reality. And so when we start having altered states of consciousness, or when we get into those states, we go and break free from our third dimensional reality, and we go through the veil, pierce the veil, and then we start experiencing these other realities that are layered upon each other. And when I look at this, I see that all realities are embedded within each other here and now. Like, it's not out there, it's not up here, it's not over there. It's everything's happening right now. And what we're doing is we're shifting our vibration and we're shifting our perception to see that other reality, which is all happening here now, which is fascinating for me. So when we're tapped in to our multidimensional selves, and when we experience altered states of consciousness, that gives us the experience to be able to see and experience these other worlds. And that is when we tap into the life force in the universe. And so it's really important for us to be able to continue and be able to get into these altered states of consciousness without being programmed into this little box that they're trying to put us in right now, so that we can have a multidimensional life and be connected to everything. And I've talked about this before, but this is what I'm going to be focusing on specifically in my course, is the in-between liminal hypnagogic state. And so specifically from the non-REM sleep to the REM sleep, in between there, this is where the magic happens. And this is where the magic happens all the time. So basically, this is where, in this state, that you pierce that veil and you go into higher and different spiritual realities that are not the same as this third dimensional reality. And so this is a training. You train yourself to be able to see this way. High sensory perception means to train yourself to feel, to see, to hear all these other different realities. So in my course, Dreams Jump on the Quantum Stream, we're going to go just Dreams 101, quantum perspective. I'm going to dive deep into quantum physics and what that all means. And then in part 1 and part 2 for lesson 2, it's going to be archetypes and symbols in dreams and the in-between state and what they all mean. And then from there, it's dreams, the practice and the integration. So if you're interested in being able to attempt to go into altered states of consciousness and also understand what you experience within those altered states of consciousness, then this would be a course for you. It's a 21-day deep dive into the unknown realities and being able to go through a 21-day study of yourself and what you're experiencing, and then being able to share and talk about it in more depth in the live Zoom calls with me. And then if you feel like you need more integration and more depth for a one-on-one, you can choose the VIP course. So if you're interested in this, please go to quantummessages1.com, click on the course, and then you can sign up from there. It's going to be starting July 30th. The other thing that I wanted to talk about are the references that I made in this video. Is I was talking about the Solari report with Catherine Austin Fitts. I'm going to put the link below. Also, the MK Ultra series, which I highly recommend reading, by Joshua Stileman. So you should really check those out. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.